Get going, keep growing with IPED. It is on that note I want to welcome you to another program of Grow with IPED. You know, IPED is everywhere in Guyana for everyone in Guyana. Small, micro, medium-sized entrepreneurs. And also IPED, we manage the operation of the Guyana Youth Business Trust, yes, the GYBT, which has been set up to address the needs of young entrepreneurs who are within the ages of 18 and 35. So get going, keep growing with IPED. And I have a very interesting program coming up. I'll be having a very interesting discussion. So I want to invite you to stay tuned. And after this ad break, I'll be having a discussion with Miss Judy Semple, and we'll be talking about a very interesting topic. So I want to invite you to stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Pursue a career in business and management or build your human resource capacity with diplomas and advanced diplomas from the Institute of Commercial Management based in the UK. Contact IPED's Entrepreneurial Development Centre. Our diploma and advanced diploma courses include business studies, project management, marketing, office management, human resource development, and international trade. Affordable evening classes, qualified tutors, a comfortable environment with free learning materials and study facilities. Choose IPED and ICM.
Welcome back, and I want to thank you for taking time off to be with us on our program of Grow with IPED this week. And as I said in my opening statements, we'll be discussing a very interesting topic. And I have with me in the studio Mrs. Judy Semple Joseph, who is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Credit Info Guyana, Inc. And we'll be talking to you about what is the Credit Info Guyana, and how it will benefit you, the entrepreneurs, and all those other credit institutions and lending institutions across Guyana. It will be a very interesting discussion, I can assure you, and Miss Judy Semple is very, very versed in what she has to tell you here today. So it's on that note I want to welcome you to the program, Judy.
Thank you very much, Indar.
I was so taken aback, when I invited you to be on my program, and, you would have accepted my invitation, without even, making a fuss of it.
Yeah, it came naturally because we're in the process as Credit Info. We realized we need to give as much public information as possible. So every opportunity, we certainly don't refuse, the Credit Bureau is relatively new to Guyana. Credit Info, in fact, is an Icelandic company that was granted the license to operate a credit bureau in Guyana. In fact, it's Guyana's first credit bureau. So we realized, based on the 3 or 4 months that we have since had the license, that there's a lot of public education that is necessary. So I certainly welcome this opportunity.
Right, and I want to thank you very much for taking this opportunity, because it's a new phenomena in Guyana, the Credit Info, and maybe many persons out there are wondering, what is the Credit Info Guyana? What is it?
It's, of course, as I said, it's an Icelandic company, but it's basically and essentially a credit bureau. And I think the big question is, what is a credit bureau?
Right, what's a credit bureau?
You would be surprised to know that people see the word credit, and they call us and ask us how they can get a loan, which says a lot of things. A key among them is that people need financing for various reasons. But just to explain what the credit bureau is, a credit bureau is essentially an entity that takes information and on the credit history of what we call subjects, individuals and businesses, packages it in a way that is useful and relevant for agencies that assess people going to them for credit. Those agencies could be banks, it could be hire purchase companies, non-bank financial institutions, mortgage institutions, and so on. So essentially, and I'm trying to make it very, very simple as possible. What the Credit Bureau does, it facilitates access to credit. It provides a mechanism, a means, or a tool by which an individual's credit history can be analyzed or presented in a very simple, straightforward, and a comprehensive way so that their credit application can be easily assessed. So the credit bureau collects information, it packages it, credit information that is, it packages it in a way that is relevant for banks and other credit related, credit granting institutions to be able to assess an individual or a business.
Right. So if you're an entrepreneur and you should approach IPED for a loan, we would have to check on your credit history. And I think there is where the credit bureau comes in. We go to the credit bureau and the credit bureau would tell us about your credit history at other financial institutions, higher purchase institutions as well. So tell me something, Judy. The credit bureau gathers information. How does it get information?
That information.
Right.
Yes, the mechanism through which that happens is what is called a reciprocal arrangement that we have with what we call credit information providers. At a regulatory level, the Credit Bureau operates under the regulations or the laws of Guyana, which is the governing act, is the Credit Reporting Act of 2010. So which sets out all the rules and regulations, including who are credit information, what entities can be considered credit information providers. These credit information providers, and I'm happy to say IPED is among the first to be
Right.
on board as one of those. These credit information providers provide the credit bureau with information with credit history, information credit history of their clients. That information is stored in our database. And I dare say not IPED, but all the other financial institutions and other subscribers to the credit bureau. So that pool of information is put on a database.
So that's the
Right?
credit report.
So no,
that's not the
that
credit
is the
report.
general database, because
Right.
you'd ask how is it the credit bureau gets information.
Right.
So with our credit information providers, they provide us with their credit information. We take all the information, it's put in a pool in a database, so that whenever a person comes to that institution for credit, they can now look up in that database, because the bank or would have access to that database.
Okay. So
Because
what,
you give us information and
Right.
you can access information.
so what you're saying, let us say if IPED, we need credit information on Mr. Tom Jones, we can access it ourselves rather than to come to the bureau.
Right, so you don't have to come to the bureau. The mechanism is web-based,
Right.
highly secure system that you would have access to, secure access, highly regulated access. So it's not like everybody in the bank could go ring up somebody's information. According to the agreement with the subscriber,
Right.
they must designate specific persons only to access that information. And that information, to provide assurances for the public, can only be accessed based on what the Act says is permissible purpose.
Right.
So that if you want to invest, you just don't go to check Tom Jones's information. You can only check Tom Jones's information, credit information, if and only if Tom Jones requests that report from you, or Tom Jones approaches you for credit.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So
that's the
let's
only-
talk about this. You gather all this information of all these persons out there. You assign credit scores to them?
Yes.
How does it work? Sir?
That is part of the whole mechanism. There are different kinds of reports that the credit bureau can generate based on the information that it gathers.
Right.
So there is historical information, there's biographic data, name, address, and so on. And then there's information on your credit history, whether you have borrowings with any banks, and other things that that come up. At the end of that, there's some processes that happen that allow for a score to be generated based on the parameters that have been outlined. So you can have a credit report, a detailed credit report, which shows different elements of your credit history. And then as a separate report, a credit score can be generated based on all that information and some other parameters as well.
Right. What does a credit score tell? What does it
The
tell?
credit score generally gives a weight or
A rating.
a rating of your credit worthiness, the possibility of default. So, for example, we will now use because we are now starting,
Right.
at least for the next 6 months to a year,
Right.
we will use a generic score that has been generated based on the operation of credit bureaus globally and so on. That score, I think, is going to be between 250 and 900. So a score of 250 will say this is a high level of credit risk.
Right.
A score of 850 to 900, or at some amount higher, will say this is an excellent person. They're very creditworthy, very low credit risk to any financial institution, and that is what basically the credit score does. But it's computed based on your information that is within the system.
So tell me something. I'm a prospective borrower, and I do not have the amount of collateral or the value of collateral to offer in return for a loan. My credit score can help me then, based on what you're telling me.
Absolutely. So if you have a very good credit score, 900, 850, then if you may not have collateral, as you say, but that report, that excellent credit report, and it's not just the score, but also your report as well, will say you can use that, armed with that, you can go to a financial institution and say, this is a clear demonstration of my credit worthiness. I'm a good credit risk to you. How can you help me? Experience globally has shown that persons have been able to obtain lower interest rates based on a good credit
Right,
score,
true.
or non-collateral loans without
Loans,
collateral. These are some of the key benefits of having a good credit score, and I think that can only happen if your information is in the database.
Right.
Because a lot of people have been calling us to say they don't have any loans anywhere, they never borrow, they don't owe anybody anything.
You always hear that.
So how can they benefit? But technically, you would not be able to benefit because you don't have credit history.
Right.
But only if you have credit history. But then some people may think they don't have credit history, but you might have a telephone bill,
Your utility bills?
your
Oh,
utility bill, your GWI bill, your and all other utility bills.
the higher purchases.
Higher purchase, all of that is part of your credit history.
Quite true. Tell me something you would know as it exists right now, lending institutions, including IPED, we would have cross-referenced sending credit inquiries to banks for, references with regards to credit history and so forth of prospective borrowers. The credit bureau would replace that. Would can banks or institutions still request cross-references or credit report for individual clients, or we go to the credit bureau itself?
Well, it's up to the bank to do that, but technically the process of the credit bureau is essentially geared towards doing the same thing of credit checks, credit history, references, and so on. Because what the credit bureau does is to take all the information from all the banks and provides it all in one place. So whereas the banks before had to be writing each other individually to ask
takes
about
a long time.
which takes a longer time and so on, that credit bureau in essence will be doing that for them at the click of a button.
Quite
In a
true.
couple of seconds, that information can be accessed. And what it means, therefore, is that your credit, you will have a response to your credit application at a much faster time.
Immediately.
Almost immediately.
Immediately.
Yes.
So tell me something. Are banks and financial institutions, they must sign on as members of or subscribe to the Credit Info Guyana?
It is stipulated in the act, right? That these are the designated, the banks and non-bank financial institutions and so on, are required to sign on, can sign on to the thing. Invariably, the Bank of Guyana is in the process of ensuring that all the banks are signed on, but generally we've had a good response. All the banks have. I wouldn't want to say it's a big stick method that they must sign on.
They must sign on.
But I think having recognized, through the Bankers Association, having recognized the value of the credit bureau, not just to individuals, but also to the banks as well,